So, hey, Ben, thanks for coming on the show. I should start with most people are not realtors from the beginning of their life. So, who were you before you were a realtor is my question.
First, thanks for having me, Kim.
Of
I
course.
appreciate being here. It's awesome. Who was I before a realtor? So I grew up in the family business, and that was selling snow cones and cotton candy and
Oh,
making those things. And yeah, sometimes it was just literally in hands, selling it around the fairgrounds kind of thing. So I kind of learned a little bit how to hustle when I was pretty young. And I worked for the family business from about like till I was about 18. And then I got into serving and bartending after that. I did a short stint in university and was moving in the direction of being a chiropractor. And that was something I really
oh
wanted to do.
wow.
Sports medicine was not really a thing when I was younger. That was the closest thing to it. And I was in school for about a year and a half, and I was like, no, business makes more sense. And my grades were not at a place where I was able to kind of make it happen. So I moved out to Banff, ski town in Alberta, southern Alberta, and then had a fantastic time and lived there for about 2, 3 years. And then moved to Calgary shortly after that, still serving and bartending. So I did that for about, I was serving bartending for probably about close to 8 years. And then I got into real estate shortly after that. So,
Wow. What led
yeah.
you to real estate, or where did that idea come from?
I would never use the phrase I kind of fell into it, but one thing's for sure is that I didn't really have a plan around it. I was 27. I never really felt like I needed to rely on school so much to open the doors for me. I kind of always felt like maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'd be able to do that myself. But I had confidence, but not a lot of self-esteem when I was in my 20s and before that. And so it meant that I could initially kind of show up, but when it kind of got down to really going for stuff, I just didn't do it. I was just too afraid. I just didn't really feel like I was worth it or that it would turn out for me. So I had a acquaintance that had been in real estate for about a year, and we kind of decided to partner up a little bit. She brought me on board. I was her assistant for about 6 months. And then after that, she's like, "You're too good to be an assistant. Why don't we form a partnership?" I was really good at like the long-term sales aspect, building
Mm-hmm.
funnels and trying to put people into thinking in terms of a sales funnel. And she was always really good with just like right now closings. That was kind of her magic. So we had a pretty good thing for a period of time. But yeah, that was kind of how I got into real estate for sure.
Well, that's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, then how's your real estate journey been going?
It's been an interesting one for sure. No shortage of interesting times. I think probably every real estate agent's got a pretty neat story to tell. So I've been a realtor now for just over 23 years, and
Okay.
I got licensed in May of 2002, which just sounds like forever ago. And let's be honest, it was over 2 decades. So that
It's
was
been
forever
changed,
ago.
hasn't
I
it,
know.
too?
Yeah, I know. So I've been doing real estate for almost, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I've been doing real estate for almost half my life, which is
Wow.
that blows my mind. And so my partner and I kind of ended up turning it into a little bit more of an intimate thing, which was a horrible idea. We shouldn't have done that. We should have known better. But we were teamed up for about 6 years ish together.
Okay.
My first 3 years were really quite tough. And then finally one morning I woke up and I was like, I can do this. I got this. But it just took me that long to get to the place where I was like, I got this. Like I'm
It
okay
does
here.
take a bit.
Yeah, it really did. And again, it was one of those things where I had confidence so I could show up and look good. So when I was in front of people, for the most part, they felt comfortable with me. But just doing all the things I had to do to get myself in front of those people was a little
Mm-hmm.
difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
I find most people, when they get started in real estate, they don't put themselves out there enough to just kind of have those face-to-face conversations that they
It's
really need to
true.
have a
It's
lot of
true.
to just get
A
going.
lot more
I
than you
know I could have,
realize, right?
yeah, totally. And if I had some proper if I had the right people poking me and pushing me and tell me the right things to do when I was getting going in real estate, it probably would have made a massive difference. And I just didn't have that. The person I partnered with, she was kind of coming from both of her parents were realtors. And so for her, it
Okay.
was kind of easy because her dad was a little bit of a small time builder. So she would get listings through that. But when the two of us kind of teamed up, they separated things a little bit. So short answer is for about 3 years, I finally woke up one morning. I was like, hey, I can do this. Like, I know I can do it. Let's go. And then things definitely got a little bit easier from there. I started to improve. And we were at a small brokerage, Maxwell Realty, a local brokerage that started here in Alberta, in Calgary, Alberta. I was with them for about 3 years. Then Remax was in the process of switching over to the away from the 100% model. And then they were starting to give up a broker split. So it was like, okay, here's the cutoff date, whatever it was, like 2005 or something. And they're like, July 2001, anyone new to Remax from this point forward pays a broker split. And I was like, so we were like, if we were ever going to go to Remax, now is the time. And we had considered it. There was one specific brokerage here in town that we wanted to go to. And so we made the move. We moved over there, and then we were there for about 3 years. And then I decided it was time for us to just kind of go our separate ways. So I left that Remax, went to another Remax that was a little bit closer to my house, and then started to kind of just get down to building my business more of the way I wanted it. And then I didn't really increase my business a ton. So at this point, let's say I was about 6 years when we finally split things up. And I didn't really do a lot of growth at that point. I was always trying different things and trying to figure out lots of stuff, lots of different marketing. One of our favorite people, Sharon, his whole thing is like, you got the two boxes, right? You get the math box or the mystery box. And I spent a lot of time with the mystery box trying to
which
figure
I think is
out.
very common for realtors, is chasing that little shiny thing. And that's the mystery box. Yeah,
totally. And it's funny, if I could go, and now when I speak with realtors, new ones, I'm like, here's the simplest, easiest thing you can do to get your face in front of more people who are actually legitimately interested in real estate. And it's still the same as it was when I was there. And it's open houses. Get out there,
100%.
meet people, get belly to belly, have conversations, talk about real estate, learn the things to say, learn the things not to say. But you're never going to get the same kind of exposure. I don't care. It doesn't matter what kind of tech you're doing. It doesn't matter.
I mean, my first year in real estate, because I was like just 2 years beyond you, it was 2004. But as you and I both know, back then there wasn't all the online shiny stuff. It was boots on the ground. And I talked to a very successful agent. I said, what's the key? And he said, it's a numbers game. You got to get in front of 75 to 100 people face to face, have conversations, and then you'll get your first transaction. So I actually quadrupled down on open houses. I did 4 a weekend, and I had 2 babies at home, but I did 4 a weekend of different, I was very strategic, a different location. It wasn't 4 of the same house, 4 different locations, 4 different price points to find my groove and find out what my sweet spot was. But right now I still do it, and I teach agents that I coach, get in front of, because there's a whole strategy. Not only are you doing the open houses, but you're preparing in advance for the open houses by getting into every house in the mile radius of that price point that you're going to do. So you know all the houses, so you can talk the talk and be professional. But I agree with you. I'm 100% open house. And a lot of people aren't doing them anymore. And to be honest with you, buyers that are coming into the open houses are further down the funnel, because they're not top of the funnel like back in our day where they would read a newspaper ad and they could only see the house by driving and seeing it. Now they've already seen it online. So if they get off the couch into the car, they're further down. You're better. Well said. And it's free.
Yeah. And it's free. You're right. It doesn't.
Well, kind of free. Our time isn't free. Time goes into it, but still, it's not like, and it feels better than cold calling.
It does. It's a lot easier. And here's something I always tell new people as well that they're not really aware of is when there are legitimately people walking into open houses that are looking to hire a realtor. They are shopping for a realtor. People don't know that. And I didn't even know that until I got in and started doing a ton of open houses and a lot more of them. And I have this one story where I had these clients. I love telling this one because it's just such a good story and it still makes me money. But I think this would have been maybe, I can't even remember how long ago it was, but it was a long time ago. Let's say, I don't know, 15-ish years ago. And I had this one client, I had this property that was a little overpriced, and we were not getting the activity, just like a couple of showings here and there. The market was nothing special. And it was even during the busy season, but there was not a lot going on. And I just said, hey guys, like we were at a place where we need to do a price adjustment. And they're like, no, we don't feel that's the case. Imagine a seller telling you that they don't want to reduce their price. No problem. So I said, okay, what do you feel the problem is? And they said, we feel the problem is not enough people have come through the home. And I said, okay, well, like how many people do you feel need to come through the home before someone says, we like it, we will write an offer that will be acceptable to you or good enough for you to actually counter with? And they said, I don't know, a couple hundred. And I was like, Okay, that's not really how it works. I
That's
said,
high.
but I'll tell you what, I will take this as a very solid opportunity. And what I'll do is I'm going to make you a promise. I'm going to do 12 open houses over the next 6 weeks. I will do 2 per weekend, every weekend for 6 in a row. And I will do 12 and we will get hundreds of people through. And at the end of that, we will see where we are. I said, but I'm very hopeful we will get an offer. I said, but it's really important that you understand that open houses, generally speaking, do not sell homes. They don't. That's not what they're there for. They're for agents to pick up buyers. And they said, okay, well, we feel differently. And I'm like, okay, you sell real estate all day, every day, like I do. So you clearly know better than me. No, I'm just kidding. So I went for it. And so what I did, Kim, was I did my 12 open houses. I picked up so much business. It was crazy. And I probably that year, from that point forward to the end of the year, I did about $45,000 in commissions closed in 8 months just because of those open houses. And I learned so much about people. I learned so much about how to do open houses. I actually created a little course around it. So if anybody out there wants a copy of the course, just send me a DM or an email or whatever, reach out and I will get you a copy of the course for free. And it is really beneficial. And so there's just so many little things that you can just kind of stack on top of each other inside of an open house. And it's just about showing up in a way that people go, yeah, this is the person. This is who I want to do business with. You got to think about it. It's almost like a date in many ways, right? And short answer is I lost the listing. I didn't get it sold. I lost the client as well. But
you picked up $45,000 worth of business.
Just that year. That year. I would estimate that over the next, and by the way, Kim, I'm still getting paid from those open houses. From the people I met and from the referrals I got, I'm still getting paid from those. I would estimate I've been paid over $500,000 in commission over the past 15 years as a result of those 12 open houses. And
in many ways, it was better that it didn't sell fast because you wouldn't have had them, when you think about it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so again, open houses, if people are like, if you had to start over again, what would you do? I'm like 4-hour open houses every week. That's what I would do. Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
and do them for other agents because you're not there necessarily to sell the house, but like I lean into taking other agents. At least in Florida, you're allowed to do that. I know some states and some areas you're not allowed to do other. I can do any brokerage's open house. So I actually strategically, I want $1 million plus. And I tell this to agents too, which you probably do too. So if you want to break into luxury in a price point that you've never been able to work in, do open houses in those so that you get to learn what the clientele looks like and what the houses look like, and you get to know it really well. But do it in a aspirational price point. Do open houses for other brokerages or other agents, even in your own brokerage, in a price point that feels a little scary. That's how you break into stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. So that is a great way if you're specifically trying to break into one spot. I think if you're a newer agent, I always tell people, I'm like, repetition. So same house as many times as you can in a shorter period of time. So people, they end up seeing the name recognition. They're like, who is this person? I got to go, who's this Kim? I got to go meet Kim. She keeps showing up. She's always doing these open houses. She must be good. So
and it's an opportunity to also door knock and invite neighbors, have face-to-face conversations that are not cringy. You're actually like, hey, I'm just hosting an open house. Would love to have you come by.
Yeah.
Especially I find in the luxury price point, neighbors don't go in because I feel like it's intrusive. So when I send out an invitation to come into this luxury open house,
right.
I would not have chosen to go in. Other price points, they come in anyway, they quote the nosy neighbors, but I take all neighbors that I can because you get to know them, you get to know a little bit more, and then they see your style and they see your work ethic. To your point, it's very layered and nuanced where you can actually build a business. And I did my first year of business in 2004. It was over 6 figures just from open houses. That's how I started my business. And when I am dying on the vine for new business, then I do open houses. It's just like it's a go-to thing. It's easier and better than cold calling in so many ways because you're further down the funnel. Today's day and age in 2025, they're not top of the funnel. They're like middle to lower of the funnel.
I totally agree. Middle of the funnel. That's right. Yeah. And it's funny because I didn't even really think about that until you said they've seen videos, they've looked at photos, they've done all these things. And I've been like, you're right. They have.
Back in the day, back when we first started, the only way to get into a house is to read the newspaper ad for the open houses coming on Saturday, Sunday. They were top of funnel.
Yep.
We still made it work, but that was way top of funnel. Now it's like, and I don't know how it is in Canada, but like within our new rules, the buyers don't have to sign an agreement for you to have a conversation. So you're ahead of the game, because if they like connect with you from a chemistry standpoint and they want to choose to work with you, then they'll sign the buyer's agreement. But like, you're not having to do it from a Zillow cold call. Okay, I can't get you in the house until you sign this. This way, that they're already like, I want to work with you.
You bet.
It's way more comfortable
I
in
completely
so many
agree.
ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny, there's 100 other things you can do in and around an open house to increase client capture and closings and stuff like that. And we would sometimes run Facebook ads before an open house as well. So you end up building up, we would run them as lead ads. So it's like, hey, here's information on this open house. If you're interested, just click the button and we'll send you the information, right? And so then they're getting into your database. You're running those low cost ads. We would run some of those as cheap as 50 cents to $1 a piece and run 20 to 50 of those. That's another great way to just show the seller, hey, look what we're doing for you. And then another thing that we would do that I always recommend and works really well, a couple things. One is, and I'm curious to see if you did this, I would imagine you did, but were you big on doing previews prior to the open house to know what else is available?
A mile radius in the same price point, in the same similar. And then again, this is a great talking point at open houses. I'd be like, what do you think of the kitchen? Well, it's too dark. I really like lighter kitchens. Oh, right around the corner, there's an all-white kitchen that's gorgeous. Same price, almost exactly. If you want, after this open house, I can meet you there at 4:00. Yes, it's great. But then on top of it, in today's day and age, which you probably are leading to this with videos, if you're previewing 10 to 15 properties before your Saturday or Sunday open house, you're doing a video preview on every single one. And especially if you're new in the business, you're showing social proof that you're working, and people assume that those are buyers that you're representing or listings that you have. And people are like, holy cow, you're in all these amazing houses. Especially, again, going back to breaking into luxury, you're previewing, if you're trying to break into a higher price point and you're previewing all the houses in that higher price point, two things: you're learning exactly what's necessary to qualify for that price. But then secondarily, and almost more importantly, you've got social proof that I work in this price point. They don't know you're not showing a buyer, but even if it's not smoke and mirrors, but you're actually just showing that you're out, boots on the ground in the houses. And that's what I tell all the agents that I coach: get off of the computer, get into the product that you're trying to sell. I don't care if you're trying to sell widgets, and get in front of a widget. But if you're trying to sell a house or be a realtor, you got to know your product like the back of your hand. So
100%.
You should know every price point of all the things. And especially if you're trying to break into a new price point, then get into every single one of those houses far and wide that you can get in. And you start learning, okay, every single house in this price point needs to have an updated bathroom, or needs to have these kind of counters, or this kind of, the amenities within the houses, or the design. It's very nuanced when you get to the higher level luxury. You kind of got to know it like the back of your hand. Or I'm here in Tampa Bay and waterfronts. I need to know the waterfront information really well. The docks, the seawalls, all the stuff. What makes this price make sense?
100%. Yeah, no question. And it's funny. Every new agent, virtually every single new agent, always underestimates the power of a preview versus looking online. They just
you can't do it.
It's experiential versus theory. That's it.
It was kind of like you or I. Okay, I want to build my bicep. So YouTube bicep, YouTube bicep, YouTube bicep. So I know theoretically what it takes to build my biceps to be bigger, but I never get to the gym. It's like you can't do it. You have to
really well said.
Smell, touch, taste. Not taste, gross, but anyway.
I wonder how this bathroom tastes. Not good.
But I mean, you start learning, especially if I were to move to Calgary, I couldn't know it just by looking online. I'd have to look, okay, this townhome versus this condo versus this house. You got to get in them and kind of start learning. And like when I was first started, I was up in Minnesota, but it's like I could drive through any neighborhood in the Twin Cities and I could tell you within $10,000 what that house would be worth, just because I'd gotten in so many houses. And that's kind of fun, where you feel confidently knowledgeable.
Your ability, and again, this ties to the open house, right? Your ability to speak to the market. You got to think about like when someone walks into, I always say this, I'm like, when someone walks into an open house, what do they want? They want to see houses, right?
Yeah.
They are not looking to generally speaking, 99% of people are not looking to build a relationship with a realtor. That's not what this is about. It's not about building a relationship with a realtor. That's not their focus. Their focus is to see properties, learn about the neighborhood, do all the different things they can do. And so if you're able to meet them, show them properties, show them, explain to them, teach them about the neighborhood, about the properties, the style of properties, that will change everything. And your ability to talk about properties specifically when you see one versus looking, there's no comparison. There's no
and
comparison.
To know the data, you're like, okay, in this particular neighborhood, 3 houses sold. Like off the top of your head, you study the data like it's a quiz coming up.
Yep.
This is how many houses sold. This is the average days on market. Know that stuff, not look at a piece of paper, but just roll it off your tongue like you're just a casual. You're there to educate. And if you're like Tom Ferry says, the knowledge broker, then they're going to be trusting in you. Oh my gosh, she knows everything. Even if you've never sold a house in that area, if you know your numbers and you know the stats and you know everything about it, and they just study, this is my thought, or this is what I teach agents, like study the house. You're not trying to sell the house, you're selling you, you're the product. Study everything so that if people ask questions, you're just like, oh yeah. And then they're like, holy cow, she knows everything.
Yep.
And you don't have to have ever sold a house in your life. Nobody needs to know that.
That's true. Yeah.
Or you've never sold a house in that price point. You're like, okay, I want to break in that price point. The best way to do it is to be super knowledgeable. The more you study, the more confident you are. When they ask you questions, you're like, oh, I can look into that. I'll get back to you. No, just let's roll it off your tongue really casually and confidently.
Yeah.
And that's easy.
It is.
It just takes work, but it's easy.
That's right. It is. Yeah, that's right. And it's funny. I kind of took that exact same attitude and applied that towards my team building efforts. I've got a team in Calgary, and there's 2 things that people will say about teams, that team members will join a specific person or a specific team because they want to be that person. Right. And so it means that you're showing up in a certain way that people are like, I want to be you, or I want to be in your position. And so part of the way that you help them get there is by teaching them all the things that you did to get where you are. And I always look at my team structure. That is one thing. There's really virtually nothing that's off limits on our team. If someone wants something specific, I'm like, okay, let's get you there. Let's literally talk about, let's come up with a plan to help you get there. And the second big thing about teams, about team members or people that join a team, they do so because they're trying to reduce risk. And they think it's about reducing costs or getting leads or whatever it is, but really it's just simply about reducing risk. And the reason why they're trying to reduce risk is because they're scared. There is some fear, right? And so it's not a bad thing. No, zero judgment. But the biggest thing then is just simply they will align themselves with a team leader that they feel is someone that will help them to reduce that risk. And real estate is not paint by numbers, but you and I both know that it's a big part about what you do, but it's more about how you do what you do, right? Once you select the things that you're going to do and how you're going to build your business, how you do that is the next massive thing. And the big thing is really just about making sure that you're properly building those connections with people. And again, building a team is no different, right? I don't expect to keep every team member. I don't expect to keep every client of mine. Those are unrealistic expectations. My bigger focus, I like to think, is that when a team member leaves me and goes on to do bigger things, I kind of look at it as a little bit of a graduation. Let's look what you've done. That's fantastic. And it's also a compliment. It's a compliment to me that I've clearly helped them.
They felt confident and lack of fear to move on. Yeah, that's
exactly.
a good point. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Most team leaders, and I had my first ever team I ever built. Really, it's just an evolution of that. But I remember I had 2 team leaders or 2 team agents. I had 3 agents, and 2 of them gave notice within 1 week. And I was just like, oh, it was such a double gut punch. Like it took me like 10 days before I started to feel normal again. Like I felt so
what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
But I like the way that you flipped that switch. I did everything right pretty quickly because they got that launch feeling.
I was not, even if someone said to me, yeah, Ben, that's a compliment to you, blah, blah, blah. I
You
still
wouldn't have
wouldn't
felt it.
have. No,
No.
hell no. I wasn't there. I was like, I hear what
But
you're
now you can
saying,
look
but everything
back
feels
on it
gross.
and see that there must have been something where like gave them the feeling that they're okay to move on. I don't know.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. So yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just got my
So
new signs. I just got my new
I
sign.
where'd you get that from? I love that.
I ordered a bunch of them from a factory in China. So
Of
I did.
course.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to order them one at a time, but I was
What'd you
looking on
get? So
Amazon.
there's a sign behind you, and then what else?
Oh, this other one is just like another
Oh, the
little,
little lightning bolt.
little
I love that.
neon, yeah, lightning bolt. I could pick that up at whatever, someplace nearby here. But yeah, I would recommend, you probably could find someone on Amazon or whatever. These, yeah, they
I like
probably,
that. Yeah, I
yeah,
feel like because my wall and all this stuff will be cut out, but my wall, look how high my ceiling is, right? So it's
nice.
like
It's good.
it's great. A, it's echoey, but B, it's like hard to figure out how to create a cool studio effect. But I'll get
Well,
there.
yeah, you will. Yeah. Big piece of art, but
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
All right, so let's get back to the questions.
sure. Yeah.
So, and I don't know exactly how to segue into it because I know that I listened to your talk at Eric Hatch. And when did the the low to the high happen in your career?
Do you want that to be the question?
No, it's
Okay.
not the question. So I
Okay.
didn't know exactly how to segue into that discussion, but
Just why don't you say we were at an event together in Phoenix and you
yeah,
talked
yeah,
about a really challenging time. Tell us about it. How's
yeah.
that? That work?
Perfect.
Okay.
So, yes, you and I were at an event together in Phoenix, and you did an amazing talk about a challenging time that kind of launched you to where you are now. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that because it
Sure.
was very impactful. And I'm sure many people have gone through not the same, but stuff. So that's a stuff feeling to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. And I'm always open to sharing. And it's very, it's unique to me, but it's also a common issue for a lot of people. But I went through a really super dark period of time in my life, struggling with anxiety, panic attacks, agoraphobia. I had difficulty leaving the house. And I went from being like a footloose, fancy free, world traveling realtor, or sorry, bartender, into getting to a place where I was like, I'm not happy with my life. I got to figure something out. I need a different career. I've got to get out of bartending. I promised myself I would not be a 30-year-old bartender. I was like, the clock is ticking. There's got to be a new chapter here. And I don't know what that looks like. So I did. I got into real estate. And then in the partnership I was in, it was difficult. There was a lot of challenges there. We really shouldn't have gone down the road of it turning into an intimate thing. It just was not a great relationship for either one of us. But we did it for years. And I'm not blaming her at all. I'm 100% responsible for my life and the things that happen and the things I bring into my life and the things I create and all that stuff. But I just started experiencing some pretty serious anxiety. Part of it was about real estate. Part of it was like going down the conspiracy hole bullshit, and just was not in a great spot. And this was all within my first, let's say it was within my first 3 to 4 years of being in real estate, 3, 4, maybe even 5. And the second kind of half of that, so let's say once I kind of got my feet a little bit in real estate, that's when the anxiety started to get much worse. And I had my first ever panic attack on an airplane. And that
Wow.
was just a massive life-changing experience for me. I had always been someone that had traveled a ton. My wife travels a lot. This was years later that we ended up getting together, but I've traveled lots. In my 20s, I did a lot of like multi-month trips to Asia and South America and just all over the place, enjoying life and traveling. So being on a plane was never an issue. And then, yeah, I had this panic attack. And then all of a sudden getting onto a plane was very challenging. And there was a bit of a lead up to it, but I'm not going to go into that stuff too much. But short answer is I was getting ready to go off on a weekend by myself. My partner and I had separated romantically, but yet we were still living together. And I was helping her through a bit of a difficult time. And we were still kind of attached more than we should have been, and definitely with business as well. And so I wanted to go off on this weekend by myself, a long weekend up to a retreat in Alaska. And She didn't want to accept no for an answer. She really wanted to come with me. I didn't want her to. In the end, it turned from a four-day to myself long weekend into a 2-week vacation away with
Oh
her.
gosh.
And that was just really not what I wanted, and felt really trapped in that. I just had no boundaries around things, no self-esteem. Everything in my life was in many ways at a pretty big low, and I just had difficulty managing my own life and managing the things I need to manage. And anyway, so off we went, and getting up to Juneau, Alaska from Calgary to Vancouver is one leg, then Vancouver to Anchorage, and then Anchorage to Juneau, and then you got stops in between, and it's a full day of travel. But as a crow flies, it's not even that far. Maybe it might be like it's less than 2,000 miles. Like it's not that far.
Wow.
And I'm exaggerating slightly, but whatever. The point is that I had a panic attack, and then all of a sudden, my life really started to spiral out of control. I got to the point where I started having almost daily panic attacks. Up to 5-6 a week. And then leaving the house was just horrible, difficult, very challenging. I just did not feel safe in my own skin. And you're trying to be a realtor. Like the technology today compared to what it was then, like if you were having these kind of problems now, there's many things you could do to still build a business from your house. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're really leveraging technology and being very assertive about it. Anyway, so at that time it wasn't like that. So I really just kind of had to book all my appointments in the evenings so that traffic would be less, because anytime I got stuck in traffic, that was a guaranteed panic attack. And so my whole life was geared around just trying to like still sell houses, still be a realtor,
Right.
with leaving the house as little as possible and only doing it during certain hours, and trying to just minimize the possibility and probability of getting into any kind of a situation where I might have a panic attack. And my life was like this for quite a while, a couple of years, and it was super difficult. And over a period of time, I just started to lean into where's this stuff coming from and what are the roots. And I tried medications. I tried therapy. I tried a number of different things and didn't really have any success. And I just decided one day, I was like, okay, I feel like I need to embrace all of this pain that I'm feeling, as opposed to pushing into the fear and breaking through the fear. And if you just own the fear, everything will be okay. And it's like I just tried for years and years and years and years to just kind of keep pushing through and owning that fear. And I was not making any progress. And so I decided one day, I was like, you know what? I think I just need to let myself really feel what I'm feeling. And I need to just lean into this pain a lot and just observe. I need to just see what's up, because there was so much of it that was just so irrational, Kim. It was just unbelievably irrational. And I was walking around the block one day, and I was on the other end of the block, the furthest point from my house. And I had this raging thought in my head, how am I going to get home? It was just, I was so unwell. I was just not healthy. And so I started every day. I was like, okay, I'm going to just let myself cry. I'm going to let myself feel what I feel. And I cried every day for 8 months. I did not skip a day. I showed up with the duty, and the duty was to just feel the pain that I'm feeling and just really lean into it. And I did. I felt like it was probably the best thing to do. There were times when I was like, I am like barely hanging on to reality here. And this is super hard and difficult. And, but I feel like I'm going through something, and I feel like I'm burning some of this off. And it wasn't maybe around the 5-6 month mark, I was kind of like, I'm starting to feel a little different. But I was always observing. I was like, well, why do I feel so scared? Why do I feel so sad? Why do I feel so helpless? Why do I feel so broken? And just all of this stuff. And so I was just observing, and I was journaling, and I was writing down. And so I got in the habit of just simply writing down different beliefs, things that I believe to be true. And then because so much of what I was digging into and learning about had to do with, most people's anxiety, pretty much everyone's, and depression comes as a result of limiting beliefs, incorrect beliefs, false beliefs, things that you believe to be true that are not actually true. And as a result, they don't support you. Now, I'm not a doctor. Please understand, I'm not. And I can only tell you my own personal experience, but from my experience, I found that when I started to learn how to change beliefs, I really started to feel better. So what I would do is I would sit there and I'd be like, what am I feeling? I feel sad. I feel whatever. I cry. I let myself lean into that fear and just get totally overwhelmed. And I'd be like, okay, what am I really feeling? Like, why am I feeling this way? And then I would sit with it and I would just observe the thoughts that were going on inside my mind. And then I came to realize that there were some really unhealthy beliefs about the world, about myself, about other people, about my safety, about all kinds of things. And as a result of challenging those beliefs and observing them and removing them and putting other new, healthier beliefs in place, everything just rapidly started to shift, like very quickly. So by about that 8-month mark was when I kind of had developed a little bit of a strategy around actually changing the beliefs. And I took this from multiple different sources and places and books and movies and all kinds of different things. And by about that 8-month mark, people are like, you're different. What are you doing?
Wow.
What's going on? Because they had seen me really struggling for a couple of years. And then I started feeling better and I started taking better care of myself. And I also started to have a tremendous amount of clarity around like who I am as a person and what I'm doing here and what's important and what's not important. And slowly but surely, everything in my life just shifted and I started doing the belief change stuff. And Kim, I still do it today. And this was 20-ish, like 15, 20 years ago kind of thing. And so I still do it today. And I took the same things, the same concepts that I used to get out of anxiety, agoraphobia, panic attacks. And I applied that same stuff to my business. And my business went from a consistent, like for years, I was like 120 to 140 a year GCI. I was like, I lived there for a very long time. Like that was where I was and just couldn't seem to break out of that. And then all of a sudden I just, boom, I was up over like 220. And then the next year it was like 280. The following year, I had a lot more going on in my life. Things kind of pulled back. I did 200 and I was like, whoa, this is no. And then I just kind of like recorrected again. And then it was up over 300. Then it was high 300. And it's just literally, it's been on a dramatic upward trajectory ever since then. This year is actually the first year ever that I will have where my sales volume this year did not beat my previous year. So this is the first year in probably maybe 15 years where I didn't beat the previous year's numbers. Now the year's not over yet, but
right.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's
super exciting.
It's pretty
How
cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Rewriting Real Estate. If today's episode challenged your thinking or gave you a strategy worth trying, share it. The right move at the right time can change everything. Subscribe and listen in next week for more insight, more momentum, and more ways to grow your business your way.